In this video, we're going to look at karate, all right? But not only karate, but we're going to look at the origin of karate in the United States, who brought it to the United States, where it settled, and then finally, we're going to look at karate in the hood, because I want to set some things straight when it comes down to those people who were the most feared in the martial arts, okay, in the 70s. Now, before I get into that, I want to say this, and I'm going to move as usual. I'm going to move as fast as I can because I don't like to make very long videos. I get bored very easily, and I can actually get bored right in the midst of making a video, in which case I tend to drift off, or I might just cut the camera off, right? So, what I want to do is say this. One of the reasons why I'm doing this video is because the people who do all the talking are the ones who know the least about what they're talking about. Very few people on social media are qualified to talk about karate. Those people who are qualified simply don't want anything to do with the martial arts community, and particularly the American martial arts community. I have gone out of my way to try to get people who I respect, people who have taught me, people who were my seniors when I was coming up. I've gone out of my way to try to get them to talk on my channel, to be interviewed on my channel. Some of them are starting to relent. I will keep pushing the issue. But even those people, legends in the martial arts community, real legends, full contact, bare knuckle, everything goes. I am talking about some of my people. One of my teachers, one of my two major karate teachers, actually used to fight in underground martial art tournaments in Chinatown. This is a fact. One of the greatest full contact, bare knuckle karate fighters in America, right? He simply doesn't want anything to do, or at least he didn't want anything to do with the American martial arts community. But I'm still working on trying to get him to allow me to interview him, all right? But those people who claim to know about karate have no real knowledge of what karate was like in the 70s. And I feel it's my obligation, because I'm a 70s product of karate, and many of my mentors are gone. Many people who I really looked up to when it comes down to martial arts never had their voice, really had their voice heard. So I'm making this video to put those people who need to be put in their place in their place. And I'm going to start by looking at karate, who brought karate to America, where these particular people settled, and then I'm going to finish up with the legacy of martial arts, or legacy of karate in the ghetto, okay? There are some people who are going to be irritated. I will say this to those people who will be irritated by what I say, because I will be talking about what came first, in what came first, karate or some other so-called black or African martial art, okay? I am going to be clear on that. Those particular individuals, they know how I feel. They can always contact me if they want to, say something. Long as it's a cordial, I don't mind. But I will be placing the facts where the facts belong in this particular video. I may refer to race or ethnicity. I will be referring to them when it is necessary, but when it's not necessary, I won't. Okay? I just want to put that out there too. Okay, so here we go. Let's jump into this. And again, this is off the top of my head. This is straight from the top of my head. Why? Because I was there, so I know what I'm talking about. When did karate come to America? Roughly people like to say around the early 1950s, and that's good enough for me, right? I'm not really going to argue the point. Most of the people that I've heard of from the hood have said, I've read and I've been told that, more told by their students, that karate came around 53, 54. Around there, right? Early 1950s. Let's just stick with that. Okay. Now, who were these people? These people were black ex-Army, black ex-Marines, Hispanic ex-Army, Hispanic ex-Marine, and white ex-Army, white ex-Marine. Now these three people, okay, the black, the Hispanic, the white, these people usually came from blue collar families. These are relatively tough individuals who were made tougher in the military, right? And they learned karate essentially by being stationed in Okinawa, being stationed in Japan. The great majority of them from being stationed in Okinawa, on the island of Okinawa. When they come to the United States, they realize that there's a void, right? There's a void in the martial arts. And they decide that, why not continue this tradition, right, by teaching karate, usually in their own neighborhood, right, or close to the neighborhood where they were raised. They find out certain things. One, they do want to continue training in karate the way they trained in Okinawa. They want to continue training in karate the way they trained in Japan. All right? The American people, on the average, are not ready for that. They're simply not ready for that. Now, they weren't as soft as they are now, the American people, and I'm talking about all ethnicities, because black folks are soft too. I know that from having had a martial arts school in the heart of Ghetto for 7 years, okay, and people were afraid to come into my martial arts school. I don't care what they tell you. Muscles on top of muscles, and they were afraid to come into my school. And why? Because people got hit in my school. I taught people defense, but eventually you were going to put on the gloves. Then you're going to put on MMA gloves, and after that, you're going to be going light bare knuckle, because my school was actually a school that taught bare knuckle boxing. Bare knuckle boxing. Okay? So, eventually, you were going to learn to spar bare knuckle. Not all out. Hands half clenched like this, but you were going to learn to deal with bare knuckle strikes and deliver them. So, these tough guys, they just didn't want any part of my school. So I'm not saying when people are soft, I'm not saying only white Americans. I'm saying black, Hispanic, white, all of them were soft, are pretty much soft today on the average. Now, were they as soft then? No, they were a tougher crowd back then. But still, the kind of karate that was being trained in Okinawa and in Japan at that time, Americans really were not ready for that. So where did these black ex-military, Hispanic ex-military, white ex-military, where did they settle? They settled in the ghettos. That's the number one place they went to open a school. Even if they had to move, all right, and sometimes wherever they were raised, not too far from them would be a ghetto. I mean, it's something about America. Most places where you live, I mean, you're not too far from the slums. You're not too far from the hood, okay? So what they would do is they would find a low-rent area, right? Usually a low-rent area, and they would find a school, and then they would open up the school, okay? Well, who are the people they would teach? They would teach black folks from the hood. They would teach Hispanics from the hood. And they would teach working class white folks, usually poor white folks, okay? And those people were tough. They were the toughest of the tough of America. So these Army officers, ex-Army, ex-Marine, yes, they entered into the black ghetto, Hispanic ghetto, and the working class, and the tougher sections where you would find white residents. Okay. Now I want to skip and jump right to karate in the hood. Now, why am I jumping to karate in the hood? I'm going to karate in the hood because there are people who have no idea that karate was king in the 1970s in the ghetto. It was king in the 1970s in the ghetto. Virtually every major ghetto, Newark, Camden, Harlem, the Bronx, Brooklyn, places in Detroit, places in Chicago, had at least one karate school that most people could not take for any period of time. Okay? In virtually every major ghetto, there was at least one karate school dedicated to turning out the best fighters in the city. No doubt. No doubt. And because most of the people were poor or very low or had very low incomes, we could barely afford a karate gi. Most of us could not afford protective equipment. What does that mean? We were fighting bare feet and bare knuckles. And now what was the contact like? You want me to give you really the breakdown of what the contact was like? It was 100% all out to the body and light contact to the face. It was all out, 100% contact to the body, bare knuckle, and light contact to the face. That's right. You could punch somebody in the face, right? Sparring. And we sparred 2 to 3 times a week after every class. That was the average in every major ghetto. 2 to 3 times a week you trained, and there was sparring 2 to 3 times a week after every class. All out, full contact, bare knuckle, no pads on to the body, and light contact, bare knuckle, no pads on to the face. Okay? That's why karate was king. Today, you hear people talk about boxing and karate. You say, well, who would win? You say, well, a boxer. When I was coming up, nope, that wasn't the case. People didn't know. They would say, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know who would win. There were many karate fighters who boxers did not want any part of. We would go to house parties. Now, if you're over 55, you know about these house parties, 75 cents, $1, usually in the basement of someone's, house, in the living room of someone's apartment, right? It is a fact that when a boxer would see a karate fighter, a person, a student of the local karate school, the karate dojo, when they would see that man, that young man walk into that party, right? The local boxer, I know there's a lot of boxers that's going to be upset, but you boxers need to understand, I started boxing first. That was the first thing I started doing at 9. I only started training karate because I lost a street fight to someone who was in karate, who was training in the local dojo in my hometown. That is a fact. I got into karate after being a good boxer because I lost a street fight to someone, and the man was a green belt. Not even a black belt. He was halfway there. Because I want to say that here too. We didn't need black belts. The people who were the most feared fighters in the ghetto were not even black belts. They were green belt. Green belt. Because that's usually half of the way to black belt. Green belt. By the time you got a green belt in the good karate school, you could fight. You could fight. You had a good sweep. You had a good roundhouse. You had a good reverse punch. Oh, you could fight. And boxers didn't want no part of a good green belt from a good ghetto local dojo. Wanted no part of it. In the 70s, karate was king in the hood. In fact, there's a video of a member of what they call a gang, right? I don't like to call it a gang, right? It was a conglomerate called the Black Spades from Bronxdale Projects, Bronxdale Homes, okay? In the Bronx, I assume. And here he is talking about karate and what karate was in the hood. And I want you to notice something, what he says about 52 blocks. He's asked, now this is where some people are going to get irritated, but he was asked about 52 blocks. And he said himself, no. Oh, no. 52 blocks came later. Karate was king. Here we go.
Initiation. One-on-one?
That's it.
How was you fighting? Was you just, like 52 blocks?
Well, that came later on.
That came later on.
You know, when some of us started getting a taste of going outside of the law.
Right.
Prior to that, just regular.
Regular, like
fist fight.
boxing, like boxing.
That's it.
Yeah.
Boxing, little wrestling.
Did you know martial arts at all?
Yes, everybody, all of us do martial arts. Everybody in the space, in this project camp, do martial arts. Everybody.
Wow. Everybody.
You didn't go to karate class, you almost wasn't accepted.
Right. Papa Edwards, Jacinta, all of that. Doing the push-ups on the knuckles.
We had Peter, we had Snoopy.
When Snoopy came home,
we had
Cuddy.
another guy named Pop a long time ago before Boogie was born. Chester, that was his name. He used to pop the chains with his hand.
Yo, somebody told me that.
It was a guy by the name of Chester.
Yeah.
Chester, they call him Pop. He used to break chains with his hands. Wow!
He used to pop the chains with his hand.
Yo, somebody told me that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Man, what, Chester?
Yeah, we used to call him Pop. He used to live in the third section. So karate been in the project for a long
He used to hit the chain and pop it?
Pop the chains with his hand. Bang, I know it sounds far-fetched.
Yeah,
but
far-fetched,
it's true.
right?
But it would happen.
And Snoopy, you remember Snoopy?
Yeah.
He used to break bricks. I heard he used to break bricks with his hand.
Yeah, well, Snoopy was one of those guys that went to the Marines. Came back.
Right.
When he came back, he started training us in karate. Then you also had Tech's brother, Googie. He was a black belt also.
What's his name?
Googie. Googie was cool. You know what I mean? So you had a lot of guys that was doing karate. A whole lot of them.
Now, you see that, right? That's the Bronx. It was the same way in Chicago, the same way in Detroit, the same way in Texas, the same way in Newark, New Jersey, the same way in Camden, the same way in Philadelphia, right? That's what it was. Long before 52 blocks, karate was king. Was king. In the 70s in the hood, you did not want to run afoul of anyone who came from the local hardcore dojo in any major ghetto. So those people talking about karate, what karate isn't. Here's the facts. Here's the facts. Before karate had to be watered down for the soft American, karate was the #1 most feared martial art in the hood. #1 most feared martial art in the hood. Okay? Some of the baddest people walking the streets of working class neighborhoods, black, Hispanic, and white, were karate fighters. Period. Period. It was brought here by ex-Army, ex-Marine, black, Hispanic, and white, and the only place they could go was to low rent areas where the crime rate was relatively high, but you also found the toughest people. And these people who were some of the toughest fighters and made up the toughest students. And by the way, most of these karate schools, if they were in an inner city or near a city, most of these karate schools in the 70s were not like it is now and during the Trump era, right? Oh no, you had blacks, whites, Hispanics all training together. All of them, by the way, had a common cause, right? All of them understood that they were no friends of the government because the government was no friends of theirs. In the 70s, tough whites, blacks, and Hispanics, we trained together and we all understood that we were all in the same boat put there by the government that didn't care about any of us. But that's for another video. This video was to make that point, that karate was king in the 70s, and it was only watered down as America got so soft. The people of America got so soft. Blacks, whites, and Hispanics got so soft that it could not be taught like it was taught to me, and like it was taught to my seniors, and like it was taught to my peers. Uma Fight Camp. See you next video.